This is the Florida Roundtable, a service of Florida's Talk and Entertainment Networks. I'm Reagan Smith, Public Affairs Director of the Florida News Network.
And I'm political analyst Al Spry. It's great to be here, Reagan. And first off, I'd like to say welcome to our TV viewers on Tough TV 38 here in Orlando. You can watch us on Tough TV 38. Florida Roundtable, we're airing on Thursdays and Saturday mornings at 9, and you can receive Tough TV 38 over the air with an antenna in select apartment complexes and mobile home parks in Central Florida. And Tough TV 38 is also carried on Channel 69 on the Summit Broadband cable TV system. And if you can't receive Tough TV, ask your cable system or satellite provider to carry it today.
And isn't it wonderful, Al? My mug, your mug, we haven't broken any TV screens yet.
No, I shaved extra close, as you know. I put on cologne. I don't know if that will go through the TV, but put on cologne anyway, just for you.
We're delighted to have some friends along on the TV network there.
So, absolutely. Yeah. And we also want to draw your attention to Florida Roundtable is going to be getting a new website. Mm-hmm. We will have more information on that for you. As for right now, you can still go to myflanews.com, and then soon you'll be able to go to a different site directly to get your Florida Roundtable fix.
I'm impressed.
I'm impressed too.
All right.
To tell you the truth.
All right.
Here's a quote from a former president of the United States, which got virtually no news coverage, and I'm wondering why.
Okay.
The quote is, "America does not at the moment have a functioning democracy." This is former U.S. President Jimmy Carter, concerned about the NSA spying scandal. This was a quote that he made in, I believe this was, this was in Atlanta on a event sponsored by the Atlantic Brücke, which is a private nonprofit association working to further German-U.S. relationship. The association's name is German for the Atlantic Bridge. What do you think of that quote, Reagan? And isn't this interesting coming from such a high-level official, the former president of the United States?
You know, I spent time with former President Carter. I did one-on-ones with him. He is a nice man. He's an honest man. He's a decent man. And he's one of the worst presidents the United States ever had. And I put practically no credence in his babblings. I think probably what he's saying is his sideways attempt to criticize the gridlock in the Congress. And
but it's interesting that he would be making this comment with another Democratic president in office. You would think something like this would come out with a Republican president.
And the truth of the matter is, if you go back through history, former presidents, unless they are asked by a president to become involved, generally keep their mouths shut. Mm-hmm. And Jimmy Carter has spent more time criticizing everybody else than any former president we ever had. And I wish he travels the globe. He went to Korea uninvited. He managed to get Bill Clinton thoroughly aggravated with him. There was a big break there. He needs to go sit in the corner and be quiet.
I think he would have helped Clinton if at least he would have gotten him a few girls or something. Just kidding. But I'll put you down as neutral, Reagan, as you like to do with me.
Put me down as neutral.
I'm going to have to put you down as neutral on that. Here's a little story about Marco Rubio. And as the Tea Party backlash fades for Marco, he's parading in major mainstream news coverage, trying to show his image, trying to do that image revamp that politicians like to do so well and so often. And so we have him in two mainstream media news pieces. The first dropped this weekend in Parade, last weekend, a newspaper insert read by an estimated 63 million Americans, making it the most widely read magazine in the country. It's At Home with Marco Rubio's Modern Family. All warm and fuzzy and not related to anything in immigration or any of those nasty issues that came up for Marco and caused so much stress for him with the Tea Party people that helped elect him and who are really not happy with him right now. So it's interesting. There's, like I say, he's in there for 6 years. There's still another, 4 years?
He's got a long ways to go.
Got a long way to go to smooth the ruffled feathers of Tea Party members.
And again, I would point out, a day in politics can be a lifetime.
Yeah, so 4 years is a darn long time, Reagan.
Yes, it is. All right. We'll see how well things get smoothed over there.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. Let us take our first pause along the network line here. We'll remind you that this is the Florida Roundtable, a service of Florida's Talk and Entertainment Networks. I'm Reagan Smith.
And I'm your humble co-host, Al Spry.
We will be joined by Florida's Interim Education Commissioner, Pam Stewart, when the conversation continues. We are back. You're listening to the Florida Roundtable, a service of Florida's Talk and Entertainment Networks. I'm Reagan Smith.
And I'm Al Spry.
And Al, as promised, we are off to Tallahassee, where we are joined by the interim Florida Education Commissioner, Pam Stewart, and alongside her is the GED Bureau Chief, Tara Goodman. Commissioner Stewart, welcome to the Florida Roundtable.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Before we get started into all this, why don't you go ahead and take the first half minute or so and just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and your position there as the interim commissioner.
Sure. I have been a classroom teacher, an assistant principal and principal at the elementary and high school level. I was deputy chancellor for educator quality in the department, left the department and went to St. Johns County as the deputy superintendent for academic services, came back to the department as the chancellor, and am serving now my second time as the interim commissioner.
All right. Now, the purpose of our get-together today is to talk about GED. And for those along the network line who are saying, what the heck is GED? Before we get into all that, explain what that is.
That is the alternative diploma for students that may be seeking a diploma potentially after they have reached adulthood. Most of them are doing so as adults, and candidates must be at least 18 years old in order to take the exams, although there is a waiver option from the school district for 16 and 17-year-olds in order to take that. They take a test in 5 areas: reading, writing skills, mathematics, social studies, and science, and have to attain at least a 410 score on each of those subtests and an average of 450 when you average all 5 of those subtests together in order to be awarded the diploma.
So let me understand properly then. This is a program designed for people who, for one reason or another, either didn't get to high school or did not complete their high school diploma, and this is an opportunity for them to come back into the system and finish it.
That's exactly right. For varying reasons, individuals find themselves in a situation where they are unable to complete their high school career, and then at a later time they find themselves in a situation where they need to and want to go back and earn a diploma, and so this is a way for those individuals to be able to do so.
As an aside, Commissioner, this is your second time as interim. Is this a job that you'd like to keep on a permanent basis, my question?
Well, right now, it's a little early to tell that. Certainly, it's my goal to continue to keep us moving forward and not miss a beat as we are moving forward. So that's the goal right now. Talking about future plans is a little early for me, but I'm wanting to, and certainly motivated to keep us moving forward and not miss a beat as we are trying to accomplish many things in Florida.
And but what would you say the percentage is of people that have not graduated from high school? Do you have that type of data where you would be, I guess the reason why I'm asking is these would obviously be people you'd be targeting for to take the GED, so that obviously life is a lot better, I would assume, with a high school diploma than without.
Right. The department does have some information with regard to individuals that don't earn a standard diploma, and I'm not recalling that right now. But Tara, I'm gonna ask Tara Goodman if she might have some kind of numbers with regard to those that do come back and work on their GED.
Thank you, Commissioner Stewart. Yes, the state of Florida has several preparation opportunities for individuals who want to go back to school. Our school district and community college programs enroll students in the equivalency diploma preparation programs. We have more than 30,000 people each year who come back into the program for that. Florida actually has about more than 1 million individuals who do not possess a high school diploma or a standard high school diploma, so there is a significant demand for access. In 2012, more than 28,000 equivalency diplomas were awarded to individuals residing in the state of Florida, and that is just a fraction of those who could likely benefit from obtaining that credential.
So now what is going on? The state of Florida is making some changes to actually increase the accessibility to the GED test takers. What kind of changes are we talking about here?
Well, we have computer-based GED testing, and that would certainly help individuals to be able to access the GED. There are many advantages to that. There's the instant score report, so all of the subtests except for the writing skills are available instantly, and the writing is available in 3 to 5 days. So that's certainly an advantage over an individual taking the traditional paper-based assessment. And our changes to our GED really are aligned more to the Common Core State Standards, which are career and college ready scores. So those individuals will have more information as to their college readiness based on their performance on the GED.
Now, those changes are taking effect beginning in 2014. Is that correct?
That's right, in January of 2014.
Yeah. Maybe you could give us some examples now of how these new Common Core state standards are integrating into the 2014 version of the GED test.
Yes, absolutely. So when we are thinking about language arts, it's really a student's ability to read closely and to understand in a critical manner a wide range and many more increasingly complex texts. So these would be texts that would be literary in nature as well as from the workplace. When we think about wanting our students to be college and career ready, there's more of an emphasis on the types of reading that individuals would need to do in the workplace and in college. And the ability for a candidate or for students to marshal evidence and analyze any arguments while also being able to express themselves clearly and be able to do so fluently in writing. They also, and this is something that most people are very happy to see sort of come back, is the ability to apply basic grammar and usage conventions to their writing, and to be able to determine the meanings of unfamiliar and, when we think about it, unfamiliar and academic words. So I think those are things that people have been wanting for a long time, and we're seeing that coming into our GED test as part of the alignment to the Common Core State Standards. Within mathematics, there is the execution and application of core computations with the ability to be very precise and to do so with fluency. And we always think of fluency with regard to reading or to writing, but it applies to mathematics when we think about the ability to do computations. Also, the ability to apply quantitative and algebraic reasoning skills thinking about our mathematics and our algebra in an application. And when we think about college and career-ready skills, it's important that individuals not just know what, but how to apply the what, how to actually be able to use that in real life, workplace, and in any academic context. When we think about science and social studies are not in and of themselves from a content standpoint part of Common Core, but there is the need to apply literacy skills within those two subject areas. And that's something, again, that we want our students to be able to do, to be able to read the text very critically, and in science apply the scientific reasoning skills and practice to the content drawn from life science, physical science, and earth space science, and to be able to do so through speaking and listening and their reading and writing from a scientific standpoint. Within social studies, similar types of inclusion of literacy skills where they would use reasoning. They would, when you think about authentic documents such as the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, an individual's ability to read those authentic documents and to apply their answers through evidence within the text.
So if somebody wants to get their high school diploma, number one, is there any age limit? Number two, how much studying do they have to do, and how do they obtain the study materials so that they can qualify to take the GED?
An individual could be as old as they want to take the test, and but they must be 18 years of age. 16 and 17-year-olds could, in fact, have access to being able to take the GED, but it requires a waiver from the school district in the county in which they reside. And the GED opens up doors for them that might not otherwise be open to them. And certainly there is an advantage to an individual who is an adult and now sees the need for their high school diploma and wants to do so. This certainly is an advantage for those individuals. It would require studying, as you can see from the information that I've shared. It's of a high level of rigor. And so unless they have been using those skills all along, they're probably going to need some practice. And as with many assessments, there are practice materials. I'll ask Tara Goodman to share any of those practice materials that might be available.
Absolutely, Commissioner. Students can take many pathways to study. Many participate in self-study. There are community-based organizations that provide free literacy services through the local public library or through their community organizations. Our state colleges, community colleges, and school districts provide preparation programs that can assist candidates and give them access to practice tests that determine whether or not they are able to do so. Presently, about half of the students or of the candidates who obtain their diploma go through one of our school district or community college program for some form of preparation, but about half are doing it on their own and accessing information via the web. And GED Testing Service is going to be expanding the marketplace to make sure that there are online and additional supplemental materials available for all candidates to access.
And before we have to go, one final question here. How folks along our network line say, gee, I'm interested, maybe I do want to go back and do that. A website, where do they go to find the additional information? How do they get started?
Certainly. Candidates can go to they can go to http://ged.fldoe.org to access information about how to find a testing center and to find information on academic preparation centers.
All right. Well, we certainly hope that many people along our network line will avail themselves of this. Certainly, life starts to look better when you've got a diploma in your pocket and you're filling out a job resume it is most helpful.
And I'll say this, my mom in New York State was not able to finish high school because of some family issues, and she later got her GED, so I'm a big fan of it myself.
Yeah.
I think it's a great opportunity for some of those individuals through whatever reason could not do so, and this is an opportunity for them to be able to, so that doors may be opened to them.
Florida's Interim Education Commissioner Pam Stewart and the GED Bureau Chief Tara Goodman, thank you so much for visiting with us this day. We trust you'll come back and give us an update on how this is going, and our best wishes to expand this marvelous program. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so very much.
This is the Florida Roundtable. I'm Reagan Smith.
And I'm Al Spry.
And we'll continue our conversation following these messages. From Pensacola to Key West and all points in between, you're listening to the Florida Roundtable, a service of Florida's Talk and Entertainment Networks. I'm Reagan Smith.
And I'm Al Spry.
And yeah.
Wanted to say that you're also watching us.
That's right. TV 38 in the Orlando area, Summit Cable. Delighted to have some TV viewers along with us. And a pleasure to have Florida's Interim Education Commissioner, Pam Stewart, with us today to talk about the expanded opportunity of the GED program. If you don't have your high school diploma, here is a marvelous opportunity to go back and get that finished. So.
Yeah, and we didn't have enough time to ask the interim commissioner, and to tell you the truth, she probably wouldn't be able to comment, but there's an interesting story relating to the former education commissioner. His name is Tony Bennett. I don't know if you remember this little bit, that he had to resign because of some criticism he faced about some grade changing that was done in the Indiana school system where he was commissioner. There was an independent review that was recently done. It was commissioned by the Indiana legislature. It found that it was necessary for former Florida Education Commissioner Stewart to tweak Indiana's schools grading formula while serving as that state's top education official. It's called Policy Analytics. That was the firm hired to do the review. Found that the Indiana Department of Education had, quote, underestimated the administrative and technical challenges associated with developing a new accountability system. In the end, the auditors found that the two adjustments administered to determine Crystal House Academy's final grade were plausible, and the treatment afforded to the school was consistently applied to other schools with similar circumstances. So that's an interesting kind of commentary. To tell you the truth, if it was such a badly implemented system where you have to massage grades, that also speaks poorly of the commissioner, in my opinion.
It does, and one of the things that we really didn't have time to do, and it is an ongoing debate, although Commissioner Stewart brought this up, she brought in the social studies and that sort of thing. But to a large extent, that has been ignored and overlooked in the testing system in Florida. Yes, we can do 2 + 2, but we don't possibly know anything about the Constitution of the United States or who the first president was or anything like that. And
well, that kind of goes along with, if you don't have an informed public, how do you keep liberties? How do you keep the functioning constitutional government? Because the people are the government. People forget that.
Yeah.
It's not this. It's funny, the government now wants to be referred to as the federal family. I don't know if I told you about this, Reagan.
Yeah.
But there's new nomenclature that it's one big family. Now, of course, I liken that more to the mafia family, or one of the 5 families in New York, or Big Brother. He's in the family, right? He's your big brother.
Yeah.
Or Mama Government. She'll take care of you. Oh, she's in the family, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, just interesting use of the term family for government programs, trying to make it all warm and fuzzy.
Okay.
We don't like that warm and fuzzy stuff,
No.
especially since we're on Tough TV now. It's extra tough. We're not taking no guff.
All right.
Anyway.
You better stop before you get too
I've
far
got to
into
stop before I hurt myself.
Too much poetry there.
Or people tune me out. Here's another thing that along those lines that you mentioned, Bill Sublette. Let's talk about that quote.
the chairman of the Orange County School Board, it has come time for local school boards to approve charter schools. They're supposed to have some oversight on content and how charter schools are run and whatnot. And Mr. Sublette this past week was quoted as saying that the whole thing was just a charade. There are hundreds of millions of dollars going into this, and the elected school board really has very little to say about it, or practically no control over the whole thing.
Well, that's not very good, is it, Reagan?
No, of course not. He's not happy about it. And this goes to the heart of the matter we were talking about as well. The elected, the people that were chosen by the voters of that county to oversee the county's education system are losing their power.
Well, I will say this. I'm concerned with where the education system in Florida is going. Jeb Bush came up with, obviously, the plan to have the grading system and to try to develop this charter school system. And now we have a fellow Republican, Bill Sublette, who is highly critical of such a system.
Yeah. And it was, Bill Sublette came within a very few votes of actually becoming the Orange County chairman. He lost that race, but did become elected as the Orange County school board chairman.
Yeah.
So I have had a great deal of respect for him over the years, and I think that probably he'd be an interesting fellow to talk about, and I'm sure he could offer us observations on a statewide basis.
We will do our best to get him
up here one day.
Yes. Yeah. Let's turn our attention to Syria, which is on everybody's mind. We have an interesting political game going on between Vladimir Putin of Russia and the president. Putin seems to be winning this battle of political wits, though, and lately. I don't know how this is all going to play out, obviously.
Yeah, by the time a lot of folks hear this, it could all change. But as of this moment, it looks like Vladimir Putin is holding the cards and the upper hand.
Well, here's how this started. Kerry, who is Secretary of Defense. Secretary of State, excuse me. Secretary of State Kerry.
Yeah.
I'm thinking defense because I'm thinking war and all that. But anyway, Kerry made a gaffe. He basically said that we would hold off on any action, attack, whatever you want to call it, if Assad of Syria handed over his chemical weapons. Now, he was speaking rhetorically, but you can't speak rhetorically in politics and get away with it. You know that. Yeah. Kerry should know that. Kerry's been in the game for, 40-plus years?
Yep.
You don't leave an opening like that. He was trying to show that it would be absurd for Assad to do so. However, Putin seized on it and said, well, I'm going to talk to Assad, because obviously Russia has a lot of influence over the Syrian government right now. I'm going to talk to Assad and see if he'll turn over his weapons. Well, Syria just decided to go along with the plan. And Obama now has to back his Secretary of State up by saying that the strike absolutely, is the quote, will be on hold if Syria abandons its chemical weapons. So now we're in a situation where this is getting messier and messier. To tell you the truth, this type of operation and this type of political development would not have happened under George W. Bush.
No.
George W. Bush would have said the following: Syria used weapons on its people. Syria's a terrorist state. We're bombing in about 5 days.
Or less.
The bombs will commence. Now, I'm not agreeing with that point of view. I personally think you should go to Congress. But if the president is going to try to take a stance that we are going to attack Syria, then changes his mind and said, well, I'm going to ask Congress, it muddles the message, it muddles the leadership, and it's not good.
There is no leadership. This president is leading from behind. And I want to go back, and I realize that there are a lot of people along the network line not old enough to remember what I'm about to say. But I want to talk about Ronald Reagan. There was an incident with Muammar Gaddafi where American soldiers were killed in Germany. Ronald Reagan went after them, strategic airstrikes on bases and the military, and he never told the American people until after it was over the next day, that night, he went on television with the video and explained what had been done and why it was done. And it was an accomplished fact. There was no, he warned that there should be no place on earth where terrorists should feel safe. And he meant it.
Well, here's the interesting thing about Obama. And I totally remember that, Reagan, and that was handled in a leadership way. Here's a couple of things to keep in mind when you're looking at this situation with the president and how he's acting. Number one, he was given the Nobel Peace Prize. So now he feels like his hands are being tied by the international community to a certain degree that he has to act in a peaceful way, even if he's going to bomb countries, right? Number two, he opposed the war in Iraq. So now he has to he was criticizing Bush for acting unilaterally and without express permission from Congress for that particular war. So now he has to worry about, in other words, he's too worried about his image. This is my whole point. Yeah. He's worried about how he looks to the international community, how he's looking to Americans. Even though the man isn't going to be running anymore, I really don't know why he cares so much. Maybe he's thinking legacy already, or maybe he just doesn't like criticism. But when you're a leader, and when you're the leader of America, which vis-a-vis the leader of the free world, as they like to say, the most powerful man in the world, you don't have time for these pleasantries. Now, on the other hand, attacking Syria, if you were going to come up with a plan to do that, like you said, Reagan would have just done it, or we should be acting through the auspices of the UN or NATO. Just us going it alone, it probably isn't the best for our relations in Afghanistan and Iraq right now if everyone sees us as we're always going into the Middle East and bombing people and bombing countries and trying to destabilize countries. It's not good for, obviously, our international interests, especially now that we're wishy-washy on it.
Yeah. There is a two-faced delivery going on from the executive branch these days. And I'll tell you what, let us pause along the network line, then we'll talk about that for a minute. Let us remind you, this is the Florida Roundtable. I'm Reagan Smith.
I'm Al Spry.
And our conversation continues following these messages. This is the Florida Roundtable, a service of Florida Talk and Entertainment Networks. I'm Reagan Smith.
And I'm Al Spry.
And we presume you know who you are, and we do thank you for the pleasure of your company this day. We're chatting about Syria, the administration, Putin, John Kerry, Mr. Putin seemingly getting the cards into his hand and an upper hand. I thought it was interesting over the last several days trying to watch this president squirm and make everybody happy. When we still, now of course the vote in the Senate was delayed and the House was never scheduled for this past week anyways. But when he was talking to John McCain and Lindsey Graham, he had to put on that war front. They want to hurt Bashar Assad. And he's trying to explain to them that, yes, we will do damage and it will prevent him from ever doing this again. And then he has to turn around and talk to the people opposed to this, to the Peace Democrats. And Marco Rubio said he was going to vote no in the Senate on this proposal to go in and bomb. Really try to convince them that even though he says it's not, it's a pinprick. And what is it going to do? Kind of a slap on the wrist, saying, you ought not behave like that, and don't ever do it again. And so he's trying to make everybody happy. And, of course, what got me was when he said the red line idea wasn't his. We need to go back and get the major TV networks need to go back and get the video out and show that. He's the one who said there's a red line that they can't cross. And all of a sudden he's saying, well, it's an international red line. I didn't,
This has been mishandled. And look, criticism of the president is appropriate here. But let's look at the bigger issue. Either one of these sides in Syria, nobody's pleased with either of these sides. If we disable Assad, assuming he even used the gas, there is an alternate theory that the gas was let off by the rebels. Mm-hmm. Plausible theory. And Russia was saying that it could be the rebels in a false flag operation letting off the gas in order to create a need for a response by the United States.
And be sure to include in the rebels Hezbollah and Al-Qaeda.
Right. But then you have Kerry saying that they've moderated, that these, and also McCain was saying this, but there's no proof of this. This is just political rhetoric. To me, these rebels a lot of them are streaming in from Iran.
Hezbollah is going to moderate?
We have Hezbollah. They're not going to moderate. So it really depends on if you want further instability in the country, and then furthermore in the region, go ahead and weaken Assad. I think we need to stay out of this civil war. First of all, we need to. Where's the proof that it was the Syrian government using these weapons? The proof is unequivocal. We're showing the proof to Congress. That's all I hear, but I'm not really seeing the proof. Now, another thing that Bob Schieffer brought up when he was doing Face the Nation last week, he said, these always start as limited, minor, little, tiny pinprick operations, including Vietnam and including Iraq and including Desert Storm and including the last wars we fought for the last 45 years. But yet they don't stay as pinprick operations. All of a sudden they grow into bigger operations. What's to stop this one from doing that?
And not to compare Assad with the Shah of Iran, but going back across the years, we mentioned Jimmy Carter earlier. Jimmy Carter stood by and did absolutely nothing while the Shah of Iran went down the drain. Whose family had been running Iran since the World War II days and were great friends to the West. He wanted to make Iran look like California. And I guess that was just such a horrible thing. Now, Carter let him go down the drain,
right?
And look what we got.
And now we're trying to help Assad go down the drain.
And we don't know what we're going to get.
And what are we going to get?
Yeah.
We may get another Iran in the region. Is that what we really want?
You are, sir.
And it's a well-put point, Reagan. We don't know these rebels. We don't know what their intentions are. Look at all the trouble in Egypt right now. So we're going to have further stability in the region, and us going it alone to shoot airstrikes. This to me is a mess. It's a big mess.
It is.
Another part of this that I find very interesting, and of course I'm going to bring this up, is you said Rubio and other Republicans will vote against the use of these airstrikes. What do you think the odds would be if there was a Republican president in office? How likely would they be voting against? Not very likely.
Right.
There is a lot of politics being played with this as well. Make no doubt about it.
Yeah. That's for sure. Well, time for us to pause again along the network line. Let us remind folks that they're listening to the Florida Roundtable. I'm Reagan Smith.
And I'm Al Spry.
We'll be back with a concluding thought following these messages. We're back. You're listening to the Florida Roundtable, a service of Florida's Talk and Entertainment Networks. I'm Reagan Smith.
And I'm Al Spry. And Reagan?
Yeah.
This will get you hot under the collar.
All right.
If you're a Citizens Insurance property owner, policyholder. Homeowners who have policies with Citizens Property Insurance Corporation, which is the insurer of last resort in Florida, if you own a home, this is the state-run insurer, they will see their premiums rise an average of 6.3% next year, which is the fifth consecutive increase in rates from Citizens. The average premium increase approved Monday by the Office of Insurance Regulation comes on the heels of a 10.8% hike approved last year, but is less than 7.9% sought by Citizens.
Wow.
Homeowners with standard multi-peril lines will pay an additional $111 a year on average, 4.4% higher than current average rates when their policy renews next year. Those with wind-only residential policies will pay an average increase of $265 more, or 10.5%, and businesses with commercial lines coverage will see a 10% hike. Since 2009, rates have risen 43% for Citizens.
And we might point out that this is the largest insurance company in the state of Florida that was created to be a insurance company of last resort, only if you couldn't find any other insurance company. And now it's the biggest one in the state. Well, they're going to pay attention to that. We want to say thank you for all of your time this day. It's always a pleasure to be with you. I'm Reagan Smith.
I'm Al Spry.
We'll be back next week with another edition of the Florida Roundtable.
You've been listening to Florida Roundtable, a weekly look at issues and problems of concern to Floridians from a state, national, and international perspective. Presented by the Florida News Network with your hosts, Reagan Smith and Al Spry. The views and opinions expressed during the preceding program are solely those of the participants and not necessarily those of this station's ownership, management, or sponsors of FNN. Your views and opinions are welcome. Address your card or letter to Florida Roundtable in care of Reagan Smith, 2500 Maitland Center Parkway, Suite 407, Maitland, Florida, 32751. Or you may email reagansmith@fnnonline.com. Thank you for listening, and please join us again next week for another edition of Florida Roundtable.
WHDO 38. Are you tough enough?
Tough TV is the first digital broadcast network to offer first-run original programming targeted at men. Tough TV features content that men are passionate about. Sports, lifestyle, drama, reality, talk, specials, and movies. Visit us online at toughtv.com. Are you tough enough?
Catch Tough TV on WHDO 38 in Orlando and check us out online at toughtv38.com. Watch us today.